Chicano ideas, culture is power, history is knowledge. Let's talk about some history, some notes. I always take notes. I always taking notes. I shared my notes before a couple years back when I was doing videos in the car, and a couple of videos I shared my notebook. This is a new notebook, and I got like, let me show you guys years, right? And dates of North America, like in a way of getting some understanding on a timeline. And with these timelines on these dates, you could look in the details if people wanted to more. Like I shared a timeline before out of my notebook a couple years back, and I redid it. And let me give you an idea of the timeline, and you could off these timelines you could go into detail and learn about stuff. So like obviously it goes 1492, Christopher Columbus. Then Portugal claimed Brazil in 1500, and from 1501 to 1510, the establishment of Central America was happening. Puerto Rico had its first slave ship in 1513. So this is how I like to. So like if I go Portugal claimed Brazil in the year 1500, go look that up. Go read about it. Go read about the war, the little war that happened. It was easy. There was nobody there. It wasn't like the Mayans or the Peruvians or, them establishing Brazil, the Portugals. So from 1501 to in 1510, finally, Central America was established. You could read the details about that. That's what I'm meaning. So Puerto Rico, first African slave ship, landed in 1513. From 1519 to 1521, Hernan Cortez is at war with the Mexica tribe. And then in 1526, from 1533, you had Francisco, the conquest of Peru. From 1534, you had Jacques Carter landed on what he named Canada. Hernan Cortez finds Baja California in 1535. Then in 1587, the first Anglos settled in what is known as Roanoke Island off North Carolina. And then from 1587 to 1607, the English colony known as Jamestown was established, which is known as the first town for the United States. And then in 1697, the Spanish finally defeat the Mayan kingdoms. 1697, that's a long time. That's the 17th century. And then you got to think Hernan Cortez already conquered the Aztecs in 1522. And then I just said Francisco conquered Peru from 1526 to 1533. And I didn't get the guy's name actually in 1697 when the Mayans were conquered. So after 1697, the USA got its independence from the British in 1776. Then let's do some laws that were established in 1819. The Civilization Fund Act for Native Americans was established. And Mexico's independence from 1810 through 1821 from New Spain, also Central America and South America, all in 1822. That's why you have Hispanic Heritage Month. Okay, so from reading these dates and these timelines, you could always establish detail by looking these up and reading more about it. So, Mexican independence, 1821, Central America and South America. In 1830s, the tribes of the Southwest and Great Lakes were pushed west of Mississippi, known as the Trail of Tears. In 1848, Mexico lost to the USA. And then the Bureau of Indian Affairs was established in 1860. In 1860, also the last slave ship arrived in Alabama off the ports of the Gulf of Mexico. And the emancipation of proclamation, the emancipation was established in 1863, January 1st, New Year's. That's because the Brothers of Blacks community always says the emancipation of procrastination, and I always think of that. That's what they call it. In 1867, Canada was finally established as a country free from also the French and the British and all that, whoever runs over there. In 1867, and that's not the 19th century. They barely became a country. Native American boarding schools from 1860 to 1978 were being established. So from 1860 to 1978, you had boarding schools across 30 states, which was counted for 357 schools, which housed about 60,000 kids. That is also known as what the Bureau of Indian Affairs, established in 1860, which granted them boarding schools, taking people's children, being Americanized, and Jim Crow law established in the 1870s through the 1960s. And the 1930s, you had the Mexican American deportation. About 700 Mexican American Chicanos were deported in the 1930s during the Great Depression. And this is just a timeline of how I like to see the establishment of North and South America and learn basic names and basic dates. And then you could always get deeper and read about what happened that year. So one more time, let's go a little bit faster. I'll say 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed the blue. So Portugal claimed Brazil in 1500. From 1501 to 1510, the establishment of Central America. Puerto Rico's first African slave ship in 1513. And from 1519 to 1521, Hernan Cortez claims for New Spain, the conqueror of the Aztecs. Francisco from the conquest of Peru from 1526 to 1533. Then you had in 1534, Jacques Carter, a Frenchman, landed on what he named Canada. Hernan Cortez found Baja California in 1535, where he also found black pearls, and Spain got real rich off black pearls. Black pearls are on the coast of Baja California. In 1587, the Anglos settled off the island of Roanoke off North Carolina. And then the British also first official town, the official colony, Jamestown, Virginia in 1607. In 1619, the African slave ship arrived in Virginia. USA's independence in 1776. So in 1619, the first slave ship arrived to start hopping for the United States. And then in 1697, the Spanish finally conquered the Mayans. 1697. In 1776, USA independence. Some laws. 1819, the Civilization Fund Act for Native Americans. Mexico's independence, 1819 through 1821. Also Central and South America. In the 1830s, you had the Trail of Tears. Everybody pushed west of Mississippi. In 1848, Mexico lost to the USA. You had the Bureau of Indian Affairs established in 1860. Also in 1860, you had the last slave ship that arrived in Alabama, African slave ship. The emancipation of procrastination happened in 1863, January 1st. That's why most people don't celebrate it too, and that's why most black people don't celebrate the emancipation if they were to celebrate something, because it's on New Year's, so people don't think about it. That's why they started doing June 13th or 16th, 19th, if you notice that too, because it finally hit Texas. So in 1867, Canada was finally established. Native American boarding schools were established from 1860 of the Barrow Indian Affairs all the way to 1978. You had the Jim Crow law from 1860s to 1960, and the 1930s deportation of Mexican Americans, about 700,000 Chicanos sent back to Mexico. So this is a timeline right here. And like you could always go deeper into details, but it gives me the mindset of like, oh yeah, this is how North and South America were established, who came and conquered in what year, what's the timeline, like when you think about, the United States finally gaining the West Coast in 1848, that's the 19th century. Like, that's not that long ago. If my grandma was born, let's say your grandma was born in 1950, 1948, that's 100 years from when your grandma was born. But it's the 21st century. That just happened in the mid 19th century. It's like, it's not that United States is still young, is what I'm trying to say. But other than that, these are ways that I study. This is my notebook, my second notebook. Let me share all my notes that I've taken about leaders and stuff, just info. Sometimes I do get, sometimes there is too much notes, and so I will go to the Wikipedia and read it instead of writing notes. And, but hey, other than that, always leave your thoughts and comments. Peace out. Give it a like, share your thoughts. History, culture is power. History is knowledge.